Welcome to our program, Coach to Coach. Today's guest is Sarah Fox. Sarah is dedicated to empowering women to navigate life's challenges with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Her coaching sessions and resources are designed to provide a safe space for you to realign yourself with your true values and goals and help you work towards positive change. Thanks for joining us today, Sarah. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Coach to Coach.
Thank you, Greg, for having me here. It's just lovely to be here. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm excited to talk to you. The way I like to start these is to ask what first sparked your interest in coaching.
Greg, that's quite a bit of a story. I think so in my 20s, I had a bit of a run-in with addiction
Mm,
and got into recovery very early, which was amazing for me. Um, but that sparked a kind of interest in personal growth, in seeing things a little bit differently, in psychology. So I think I had this kind of quite early interest there, and obviously that was has been with me my whole life. And
mm,
then in my 20s, I married somebody and moved to Africa, and I it was quite difficult to kind of work. I didn't really have any training because I'd messed that bit up of my life, so I didn't have a lot of skills going on there, but I was good at talking to people, and I discovered that I was good at problem solving. So one of my daughters very dyslexic, and we created a school within a school to help all of the children, with learning difficulties, and really using some of the skills that I had, I think, about around how emotional intelligence and getting people to work as a team and creating what was needed. And then that kind of led on to another project that was to do with, firstly, with education in schools around drugs and alcohol,
mm,
and then understanding that actually there were quite a lot of kids dying on the streets, on the roads, because there was very little road safety. And then realizing, one of the children said to me, "Mom, we'll listen to me about drugs, but we're still going to drink." And I thought, oh no, now what do we do? So again, it was about creating a cultural change. How do we change a culture and making that really inclusive?
mm,
And then my third project in Africa was, again, somebody happened to mention to me, what do I think that women in Africa use for menstrual health care? And I thought, I have no idea. And so looking into that and thinking, oh, I could do something about that. I
mm.
could do something here. And so setting up a company that worked with government, with NGOs, with vulnerable women and girls, and in all sorts of walks of life. And it enabled me to do something to create change. But I think and then I came back to the UK. So I was there for 25 years, and then I moved back to the UK about 5 years ago. And I just didn't really know, what do I do now? And Africa's wonderful because you can pretty much do anything you want. And I
Mm.
think here it felt a bit less easy to do that. And I was in a different stage of life as well. And I knew that I could do therapy, and I knew I could do kind of drugs and alcohol counseling. I could do that kind of stuff. But I was really conscious of not wanting to work in trauma,
Mm.
that I really felt that the help that I'd received, and I had had some coaching for myself, and I felt that this is so forward motion. This is so creative.
Mm.
This really leans into where I work best, which is probably seeing something different and being creative, rather than sitting in the problem and thinking, well, this is a problem, and
Yeah.
really delving into that. So I think the reason I got into it was because it's positive, because it's growth, because it's happy,
Mm.
mostly for people, I think, to get somewhere better. It's improving lives, and that's kind of where I think I naturally feel I'm best placed.
Yeah. I love your story. The thing that really stands out to me is you framed it as being good at solving problems, but as you kind of rhymed off all your examples, what occurred to me was you're actually really great at creating solutions.
Yeah.
And and that kind of leads into the way you described coaching as, a creative space and creating something better. Um, mostly happy. I
We
love that.
try.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's quite a journey. That's great. And I
Yeah.
also I have two kids that are now 22 and 20, but a lot of the stuff I've done in the last 5 years uh, were kind of things I'd help my kids with that I'm like, oh, other kids could use this. So it was kind of like, how do you prepare for first year of university, or how do you prepare for starting your career? How do you prepare for interviews? Like all this kind of stuff. So like, I always think of it as necessity is the mother of all invention. So like you helping your daughter with dyslexia, it's like, oh, here's a again, not orienting to it as a problem, but here's something that I could create a solution for, and then summoning all your creative powers and the creative energy of the universe
Mhm.
to solving that. So I love
I
that.
love I love that you said that because I completely relate. So I've got four daughters,
Mm,
and like I said, that first one, the first sort of thing was about education. And then when I talked about the drugs and alcohol, it was like, oh my gosh, my children are 14, 15. This is coming. What do we do about it? And
yeah.
how do we create a big enough space that because it wouldn't be hopeless me educating my children about something if it's in society and around them all the time as
Mm,
well. So kind of how do we make it safe for everybody to talk about this and how do we include everyone? But it was very much that's the stage they were at.
yeah.
And I think the coaching thing, not my children are now 27, 25, 23, 21.
Mm,
And obviously in this new space of getting out to work, leaving university. And so I think, I know you might ask me later, who are my clients? I think a lot of the people I started with and get referred a lot is that younger generation who are
yeah.
just starting out because it's where I'm kind of at. Just like you've said, you're trying
Yeah.
to sort of be in the space where you can be most supportive to the people around you, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first programs I ever created was called Leadership for Teens. And it
Love
was,
that.
it was me trying to download 20 years of Stephen Covey stuff to my
Yeah.
kids and like secretly get them, can you watch this prototype of my course just to give me feedback on it? Meanwhile, it's my secret way of making them do the course.
Yeah. But I think that that is just such a powerful thing that you created. And
Mm,
I know, talking to my children, the things that they wish they had more of was like financial literacy.
yeah.
But proper financial literacy,
Yeah.
not numbers at school,
Yeah.
actually how does investment work that we
Yeah.
don't teach or
Yeah.
and what you've shared there is just incredible. Of course, why would we not teach them about leadership and about getting into that workforce? I
Yeah.
think I think your course should be in every school
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
going in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I often think about that stumbling into coaching kind of, in my very late 40s and things like the three principles and stuff. I often imagine like, oh my God, what would my life would have been like if I'd known this when I was 20? Um,
Mm.
that kind of thing. So then I'm like, well, I'll never know that answer, but I can expose my kids to this and see how it affects them.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, the first coach I hired was for my daughter,
that's
her last year
brilliant.
of high school, and anyway, I think it made a huge difference for her transitioning from leaving home and going to live at uni and um, dealing with all the anxieties of that throws at her. So yeah. Anyway, you kind of segued into it about your clients and stuff. So I'd love to hear more about your practice, who you're working with, how you're working, um, anything you can share with us about what you're up to.
Yeah, so I think, as I said, I do have a sort of a definite stream of younger people because my children are really beautiful
Hmm.
and actually send quite a few of their friends along. So I definitely work with people who are probably a year or two into working.
Hmm.
You come out of, I think we have this sort of idea or there is a process of you go to school and then your first exams your first public exams, everything's leading up to that and then everything's leading to university and then everything's leading to your first job and then you get the first job and it's like, wow, now what?
Yeah.
And I think quite often that first job isn't great. It's there's a sense of just get one under your belt, just get in the workforce. And so I've definitely talked a lot and created a lot with younger people who've done a bit of work, and now it's like, yeah, but this isn't what I want, and
Mm,
I don't really know what I want, and I don't know how to get there. So definitely working in that space has been amazing.
mm,
And then also I think I naturally work perhaps with, or I seem to have attracted more women than men, which is great. I think women tend to have so many times in their life where they're transitioning, like from being an executive to being a mother.
mm,
And then all of that. I mean, if we think that adolescence is full of hormones, it is nothing
mm,
compared to being a mother. That is like way more. And one of the interesting things that come up is we would never ask an adolescent who has gone through puberty to go back, having gone through the process.
mm,
Can you now go back to being a child? We would never ask them that, but we ask mothers to go through carrying a baby,
mm.
creating a human life, and then we say, right, can you just go back to how you were and keep going with the baby?
Yeah.
So I love that the space around that to work with identity and to work with who am I now, and
Mm,
actually really owning that and really feeling comfortable in that space is so important. And then I think we change again, because then obviously we go through motherhood and maybe we go back to work, and there's that, oh, how do I go back? And somebody once told me a story where they'd gone back to work and a father had gone back to work at the same time. They'd both had maternity, paternity leave at the
mm,
same time. And he came into the office and showed pictures of his new baby. And everyone was like, oh my God, that's so lovely. That's so lovely. And she said, I felt I couldn't share because I would be seen as, well, your head's not in the office.
mm.
And so this different sort of dynamic, and I'm not saying that what he did was right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
beautiful that he shared it. But there is this sense of, I can be two things. I can
Mm,
be both a parent and I can be a successful career person if that's what I choose.
yeah.
And then I think there's another change again when we get, into um, our children leaving home, and all our purpose. We're parents. Our purpose as a mother is to create this child that's going to go into the universe and be successful and survive and do well. And then it's like, historically, there wouldn't have been a gap
Mm,
really between them leaving home and us becoming grandparents.
mm,
And there is a gap. So there's a sense of, what do we do now?
yeah.
How do we reinvent ourselves? Or what do I want? What do I really want now?
Mm,
That, because I think we have sort of 10 years now, maybe 10, 15, 20 years where we're not grandparents.
yeah.
And where we could really have a second go at life, really do something with it. So that's also why I'm coaching.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is my second thing.
Yeah.
But so I think helping women to really see that. And then entwined in all of that is men, because obviously they have a similar journey. And I think, like, men becoming fathers, nobody stops to ask a dad, how was the birthing process really?
Yeah.
And it can be hugely traumatic. Or how are you coping with not being able to walk out the door in 5 minutes and everything taking hours, or not getting enough sleep, or
Yeah.
so again, there's that side of it. And then I think I've really started to lean now into, so I was working with somebody last week who is a CEO, and I'd never really kind of done that much with
Mm,
CEOs. And I've always kind of thought, because I never worked in an office in a corporate setting, that maybe that was different. And then I was working with this CEO, and his company's turning over a few million and he's doing very well. And it was amazing, because suddenly it was like, oh my God, this person's just human. This
mm,
person feels exactly like I feel, or has exactly the same worries and work balance. And how do I hand a bit over? How do I let go a bit? I really want to go on holiday with my family for 2 weeks, but I can't leave the
mm,
business. And what do I want to create? I don't know if my child's going to be wanting to do this, because there's usually quite a big gap now between the parent and the child in
yeah.
age. There's more of a gap. So just looking at all these different ideas of what's possible. And I
Mm,
think those are the people that I'm working with,
yeah.
people who are just creating and looking to elevate all the time.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I really resonate with um, the whole grandparent, this gap, this new gap I don't even know what it's called, but it's
Yeah.
I know like one of the things I worked on with my coach was creating a vision for kind of like the future that I want in my life. And a big part of my future vision for myself is uh, being a grandparent that can actively participate in my grandkids' lives. So there's
Yeah.
a health and vitality component to it. Like I don't want to be unable, like I want to play sports with them. I want to pick them up. I want to wrestle with them, play, you know, hockey and soccer. I don't do all, I want to be doing things with them, which means I got to uh, be healthy enough to do that physically.
Yeah.
And my daughter reminds me all the time, like, it's going to be a while, Dad. Like, don't get any ideas because she's 22 and just graduated, and yeah. So this, I'm foreseeing like a pretty healthy gap between my kids kind of getting to that stage of their life and having their own kids.
Yeah.
Because like my wife was, I guess, 23 or so when we had our first kid. So
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, if I had to guess, it definitely is going to be, 5+ years before there's any little feet around here. But
Mm, mm.
yeah, I love that, and I love what you said about the CEO thing. I mean, sometimes I think I do better coaching when I'm coaching somebody in a realm that I have no idea about because I'm not biased. So like,
Mm.
um, if I were to work with CEOs, it was like I have all this preconceived things from working in business and stories and experience I've had in that capacity with CEOs. Where so I think for you, um, like the benefit to a CEO of having you come in with none of that business, having worked in that realm,
Mm.
you're they're gonna benefit from that openness and lack of bias. And you're right.
Yes.
They put their pants on one leg at a time, like the rest of us. So,
Yeah. And I think there's also that thing of what was I going to say to you about yeah, I guess that I get to be a blank page, which is
mm,
lovely. And yeah, also exactly what you said. It's like if I'm with a mum, oh, it's quite hard sometimes not to sort of say, oh, well, I did this, or
yeah,
have you tried that, and stay in the coaching relationship, not move into a space of, sharing stuff. Although obviously you can share a
yeah,
bit, but
yeah,
yeah, so I hear you.
yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
just swap. I'll send you all the mums. You
Yeah.
can send me all your
Okay.
CEOs.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking about, you know, moms and childbearing and then dads and things. I used to have a running joke with my wife because she'd say like, "You have no idea what it's like to be pregnant." I'd say, "Yeah, well, you have no idea what it's like to have a pregnant wife."
Yeah, that's true.
Like both have some challenges to them,
Mm,
certainly.
mm,
Um, I wonder if you could share some examples of how coaching has helped either yourself or some of your clients, just so that people
mm.
listening can maybe see themselves in some of these stories and go, "Oh yeah, maybe I could use some coaching
Yeah,
in that
I
area."
think I think for me, probably the biggest change that I've had from doing coaching is I suppose it's just seeing myself in a different way. I think that. And this, I never got this in therapy because, and I've, obviously I've had therapy because I've done all sorts of things, but
Mm,
um, I never got to really see myself as from a potentially different space. So if I couldn't see myself from a different space or a different reality, I couldn't create anything different either.
mm,
So I think for me, I think changing my self-talk, changing how I relate to myself, the relationship I have with myself. I'm just like so much kinder and nicer
mm,
and understanding that, all of that is just my thought creation. I know, and yes, it is picked up inevitably from an odd comment or a look or a thing or a something outside. But I've internalized it and created the story and created who I
mm,
am from it. And so I think coaching really helped me to see that I'm not that. And that
mm,
also I can be whatever I want to be. I mean, essentially. And I can show up as I want to show up. And I can question that. I can say, well, what does that look like? What do I want to do? How do I want to be a parent?
mm,
Who do I want to be when I'm, in having to handle this situation? Or, I can really choose so much more than I thought that I could. And I think that's been really, really helpful for me. Um, and then I think with work, I think probably there's a couple of women who have been in executive jobs I mean, one of them actually is a doctor, and she's sort of moving into a consultancy role. And it should be quite simple. And another lady who was working in banking, but she was with five sort of middle-aged men in a banking situation. And it was like, oh, I'm just not happy here. This isn't, this is just not a good environment for me. And understanding, because they were both completely capable, are completely capable of filling in a form or filling in an application.
Mm,
So that wasn't really the issue. So then it was like, well, so what is the issue of why you can't, why you're holding yourself back, or why you're doubting your ability here? And it was so interesting to see these two women who are completely different roles, but just getting to talk to them and for them to be able to see, oh my God, yeah, because I did part-time, I don't feel I'm quite as good as everyone else at doing this. So I let
mm,
them go ahead of me because I have this kind of feeling. And yet, if you actually looked at the work she does and you actually look at how she shows up, I mean, she's showing up 100 times more than 90% of the people there.
yeah.
But this limiting belief, this belief that's kind of just underlying there. So I love that for her, she's now going for this amazing
Mm,
consultancy job. So that's beautiful. And for the other lady, I love that she switched. She's now in an all-female, she's still in banking, but she was going to leave a career that she really liked because of not being able to find the right space to work in. And
mm,
now she's found that. So I love that. And then I have another lady who just coming into my head now. Well, I think she had quite a lot of very difficult stuff that went on in her childhood and then in her sort of as a young parent, really, really difficult, traumatic stuff. And again, the result of that was that she learned to be this really hard overachiever and real perfectionist, and so kind of being able to look at who she was before that
mm,
and who she wants to become and what she wants to bring in and why she needs some of these um tools that aren't really serving her anymore. So I think, yeah, that kind of stuff I think is
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Well, I love all those stories, and for me, they all point to the power of insight and
Mm.
kind of, the process we go through as coaches of just having conversations with people and letting them, um, they say things verbally that they've maybe been holding inside their head for years, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's out there, and then once it's out there, you can look at it from different angles and question it. Is that
Yeah.
true? Um, how would you love it to be if it didn't have to be that way?
Mm.
And it opens up so many possibilities, and then they can be open to creating whatever it is they
Mm.
want.
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I love those stories, and
Mm.
it's amazing how I mean I have a very vivid imagination, so I can imagine the impact that those seemingly simple examples of one point in time in a career. Well, that lady going into consultancy, well, I mean, who knows what she's going to achieve or impact the world in the ripples that otherwise wouldn't happen. So,
Yeah, and also her going into it with this new understanding of
mm,
herself,
yeah,
because she's going into it without that limiting belief. And she is so creative. I mean, just like she was saying, oh, I'll be in surgery and I'll think, oh, we need a new tool for this. Let me create one.
yeah,
This is somebody who is so dynamic
yeah,
and so creative. And I think she would have got to that level anyway.
mm,
But to get there with this new freedom, that's
mm,
like you said, that's really exciting because no, you've kind of unleashed the power of goodness knows what in there.
yeah,
Somebody's now showing up really powerfully. It's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love that you use the word freedom, um,
Mm,
because it is this realization we can have that
mm.
the thing that was keeping us not free was made up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm,
yeah,
mm,
very
yeah.
cool. I'm curious if there's one thing you'd want people to take away from this conversation or
Ooh.
leave them with. What would that one thing be?
I think this, can I say two?
Sure.
I
There's no
think the
rules here.
first one, there's no rules. I think the first one would be it really doesn't matter where your starting point is.
Mm,
I think that change and growth and achieving your goal or achieving your dream is not relative to how old you are, what skills you have, where you start, what you don't have, what you do have. It's just do it because it's available to everybody. I
Mm.
think that would be my one thing, that it just, the starting point really doesn't matter. And the other thing I think is, well, nobody needs a coach.
Mm.
But my goodness me, what a difference does it make in life if you do have a coach? And for me, I just know I wouldn't be talking to you,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I wouldn't have the relationships I have if I just hadn't had that person creating the space for all that insight and sort of being able to know what I don't know, being able to see what I couldn't quite see. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that would be my biggest takeaway. Is I'd say just don't be afraid to get a coach or ask for help or get invited into a conversation, because it is, the outcome is just so much bigger.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
bit like, I'll tell you what it's like when you go into rehab. This will, anybody who's been into rehab who hears this will know what I'm saying. The hardest thing you ever do in your life is to walk through the doors of a rehab center,
Mm.
because you know that the second you go through the door, you have to put down your crutch, whatever that crutch is,
Mm.
whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever. You've got to, for the first time ever, put that down and go into this really scary space where you don't know anybody and they're going to ask you really difficult
Mm.
questions. And yet, the outcome of that, if you can do it and you can live it, I mean, I don't know, 30 something years in recovery. I cannot tell you what an amazing life I've had. And if I hadn't been able to get over that little bit of fear, that little bit of, sort of resistance,
Mm.
I wouldn't have this. And I think coaching can do even more. That's what
Mm.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was several things, wasn't
No,
it?
that's all right. All amazing things. Yeah. I, I love it. It's, the skeptics out there will say, like, yeah, of course, coaches saying everyone, you don't need a coach, but it could be so helpful. And there's plenty of coaching resources and things available to people that don't cost any money and don't have commitments associated to them. So, if I would encourage any of the skeptics out there, just give it a try. And, you don't
Mm,
have to pay any money. You don't have to commit to anything and see what happens. Because even just being open to the possibility,
mm,
um,
mm.
I mean, that's just by virtue of somebody taking that first step to say, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with somebody. It's kind of analogous to what you just described, to walking through over the threshold into the rehab center. It's like that's the first
That's
step.
the worst bit, isn't
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
really? After that, you're in, so it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
I
it's
think
never
it's,
as scary as we think it's going to be. No matter, even if it is scary, like our
oh.
ability to make things scarier than it actually is quite an interesting human phenomenon, I think.
Well, also, I'll say that once you get in the door of that rehab center, I've never felt so much love and so
Mm,
much empathy and so much um, sharing, like everybody else has done exactly what I've done. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
yeah.
People are actually the same as me. I mean, I couldn't have felt more loved,
Mm,
but I had no concept of what that would be. And I think it's what you're saying there, try it because you have no idea. And it isn't for everyone. I'm not saying it's for everyone,
yeah.
but I think the possibility is just so big that it's worth the effort of trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, if people want to try, how can they find you or get in touch with you?
Okay, so my email address is Sarah Fox Sim. So it's SarahFoxZim for mother
Mm,
at iCloud.com, or Zimbabwe Zim.
mm,
And then I have a landing page which is sarahfoxcoaching.com. I think probably an email is the best.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Or
great.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Oh, it's been so lovely talking to you, Graham.
Yeah,
You're
I've really enjoyed our
such an
conversation.
amazing person.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
Same back at you. It's been great, and I wish you all the best with your clients and your daughters, and
Yeah,
one day we can get together and talk about our grandchildren.
I hope so. Yes, because we will both be fit and healthy and running around after
That's right.
them. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's just
thanks,
been,
Sarah.
it's been so lovely. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll see
Take
you very
care.
soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.